I think we are live. Yes, I just got the notice. We're live. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. How are all of you doing? I see some of y'all was in the chat. Y'all was ready to go early. You said that I got that notification. Some of y'all have been in the chat this morning. Happy Saturday, y'all. Happy almost end of October. It's crazy that we are this far into the fall. And things are falling apart all over the place. Isn't that curious and interesting? Just for time's sake and to make sure that we're all on the same page, this is not going to be one of those newscasts, right? This is not going to be what I typically do Monday through Friday. I'll just let y'all know all of the analysis that I have on the latest and greatest and awful and worstest. I know worstest isn't a word, but all the news that's happening. This is a weekend chat. And so I wanted to do something a little bit different this morning. I don't have a whole list of notes in front of me the way I usually do, so I can actually pay attention to the chat. Hello, TMFJ. See you, friend. DB215. I see you. I see you. Shout out to Brian. Not my Brian, but a Brian in the community. Who was sitting up in this chat ready to go. I hope all of you are as well as can be. I wanted to just have a little bit of time to check in, do a little temperature check, because we're in a time. We are in a time. And I'm going to start by sharing with you all something that happened on my show this week that I am still, quite frankly, emotionally I don't want to say bereft, because I think that would indicate sadness, emotional. Thank you, Rambling Ray. I appreciate you. Oh my God, I love being able to pay attention to the chat. Usually during Monday through Friday, I cannot pay attention to the chat at all because I'm so focused on the notes. And so I've got Jonah doing chat moderation. So thank you to all of you who have been supporting this show, supporting this channel. We got somebody in here from Sweden. Oh my God. Hello, Sweden. I don't know how to say hello in the language spoken in Sweden. Swiss? No, Swiss is Switzerland. What language is spoken in Sweden? I'm having a brain fart right now. Hallo, guten Tag, guten Morgen. I can do German. So sorry, pardon my ignorance. I just had a brain fart. So I cannot remember the name of the language that is spoken in Sweden. But I thank you for being here. Swedish, duh. You know why I didn't say Swedish? Because I was thinking about the candy. Swedish fish. And I was like, that surely cannot be it. So part of my brain fart early this morning. Hello to you in Sweden. I hope you are well. Hello to you all over the Pan-African diaspora, the globe, the global majority. I see Houston is here. Man, it feels good. It feels good. And I just put up the notification. I didn't know if anybody was going to be paying attention or if anybody would see it. So I'm grateful that you all are here. This is not a members only. We are doing monthly. I've committed from here out doing a members only conversation for those of you who have joined the channel, not just followers, but who've actually joined the channel and support it. So starting in November, I'm going to be I sort of toyed with it. What should we do? We're going to do a monthly chat just because I need it. Right? I need to connect with you all outside of what's happening when we do the Monday through Friday newscast. And no, I did not come on live Friday. Some of you know, I am a commissioner for the New York State Community Commission on Reparations and Remedies. And so yesterday we had a business meeting and it was right during the show. I had to pre-record the show. So I did not do a live yesterday. My apologies for those of you who were waiting and missed it. And so I thought I would make up for it by joining everybody today. But I wanted to start by telling y'all something that happened on the show this week. Now, some of you who are listening, you already know about this. And some of you who have been following along in the YouTube comments, you know this as well. But this week, we had a bit of a call-in show where I was asking for people who are impacted by the government shutdown to call in, let us know how they were doing, give us a sense as to what's going on, what news did they have. We were also talking about the fact that a lot of us are getting notifications that our health insurance premiums are going up. And I just wanted to, to do a check-in and see how people were doing. On the show, we had this sister called Rebecca. Her name is Rebecca. She called in and she basically shared with us. This was her first time calling. She's a longtime listener to the show. Oh, and I'm sorry. Let me introduce myself for those of you who are seeing this for the first time. I always forget that we have newcomers. Hi, I'm Larry Daniel Favors. I am an executive director at a law center. I am an attorney by training. I'm Black by the grace of God. and I also host a show on SiriusXM, the Larry Daniel Favors Show, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern. And I have a podcast called Larry Breaks It Down, where everything we can't address in the show fully, I get to then do in the podcast. And so there are some of you who have never heard the SiriusXM show. You only know me through the podcast. Shout out to you. I had a sister who was like, I met her the other week and she's like, I listen to your podcast every day for the news to catch up. That is a huge honor for me because that's actually what I wanted. The podcast is usually maybe 25, 35 minutes. I try to make it quick, snappy, so you can, do it while you're walking a mile or doing while you grocery shop, and make it really quick for those of you who don't have time to spend. Either maybe you don't have a Sirius XM connection, or you don't have time to really dedicate hours to news gathering. And I try to make it, lively as I do. Oh, and thank you for that, Amsterdam. Yes, if you could please take my phone off the desk, it vibrates. Oh, thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you, Julius. And it's connected to the mic and that gets picked up. Thank you for that. See how we collaborate and we make it work. And I can actually see your comment because I'm not reading a whole bunch of notes. So yes, thank you, Amsterdam. Please like and subscribe. Larry breaks it down. But the podcast is really designed to fit in, or to fill a space where we realized after the election last year, we were doing so much work on Urban View that just, if you were listening to Urban View on Sirius XM channel 126, great, you got it. But there are way more people who are not on Sirius XM than people who are. And so that's why we started doing the YouTube channel, which is why I'm here right now. Because before the election, we would like, oh yeah, we have a video, we should put it on YouTube. But like, it was never anything intentional. So shout out to all of you who have been rocking with us from the very beginning. I appreciate you. But returning back to the story on the show, this sister Rebecca called in. She's a federal worker and she's furloughed, but she's exempted. And I asked her to explain what that meant. And she said that because she was furloughed, she was not getting paid. But because she was exempted, she had to keep coming to work. And we was like, damn, that's terrible. And then she began talking with us about all the financial challenges that she's facing. Because think about it, the first check, or the last check that people got before the shutdown, it was a short check because the shutdown happened, I think it was on October 1st. That was like a Wednesday or a Thursday. And a Wednesday and Thursday, like you haven't worked a full week. So the check that you would get for the pay period following would basically be short the days that were not included because you were technically furloughed. The government was shut down. And even though the government is shut down, we've also seen how they're really using this as an effort to build out their Project 2025 plan, because as we talked about before the election, they have always intended to mass fire hundreds of thousands, let me say tens of thousands, but right now I'm going to say hundreds of thousands. Sometimes I use numbers and I'm not very good at math. I'm sorry, I'm reshaping my relationship with math. I was told by a math teacher that I should stop saying I'm not good at math. I'm reframing my relationship with math. Hundreds of thousands of people were always intended to be fired. This was something that was explicitly described in Project 2025 with the Department of Labor and with all of the agencies that Republicans have really not really ever liked ever since the Civil Rights Movement and the New Deal coming out of the Great Depression. And so we knew that they were going to mass fire people. That's something that they were very clear about. It was, I can't remember which chapter in Project 2025 it was, but it was explicitly written about and discussed. How do I know? Because I read it and we talked about it on my show a lot. We've been talking about Project 2025 for years. And so we weren't surprised when those of us who were aware weren't surprised when the layoffs started happening, but the swiftness of it has been, frankly, even for those of us who knew it was coming, has been overwhelming. Now, the layoffs aren't going to stay layoffs, because remember that even though 375,000 Black women have been laid off, for example, pushed out of the workforce, 300-some thousand white men have been hired. That was always part of the plan. And as they said in Project 2025, they wanted to mass fire all of the existing civil servants, because people who work for the government are civil servants. They're not partisan and they work in their positions regardless of who's in office. And what ends up happening is they want not those civil servants, because in Donald Trump's first term, those civil servants, basically everything he wanted to do that was illegal was like, no, we can't do that. That's illegal. No, we can't do that. We've never been able to do that. This is illegal. And so they had planned to use an order called Schedule F, where they would mass fire people and then replace them with MAGA sycophants. And it's not just any MAGA sycophants. And we know this because we also went through the hiring portal that the Republicans had put up. We talked about this on my show as well. They basically wanted all of the farthest to the right conservatives that they possibly could to submit their resumes and to respond to this very lengthy survey. And we know it was lengthy because we answered the questions on the survey on my show. And we went through the survey, and the survey was asking questions like, who's your most conservative inspiration? What conservative books have you read? They didn't just want like your run-of-the-mill Republican. They wanted deep QAnon type, MAGA type, conservative type people, because they plan to fire all the people in office or in positions and replace them with the folks who would be civil servants that would allow Donald Trump to do what he wants to do. That's just setting the scene. So we were not surprised when the layoffs happened. We have been surprised. I think I've been surprised by how swiftly all of this has happened, even though we knew they had a 180-day playbook and they did not plan on wasting a whole lot of time. So when Rebecca called in and she's sharing with us what's happening, her last check was short. She is now missing her second full check. And she was talking about the fact that her husband had been removed because he was a part of the ICE catch up and swarm that's been happening. Shout out to all the New Yorkers who've been handing it out to ICE. Appreciate y'all showing up on Canal Street and defending them African brothers. I'm saying them African brothers because I don't know what nations they're from, but there was a whole lot of African people who were about to get hemmed up, and New Yorkers showed out. Shout out to you. Love you for that. But one of the things that really broke my heart was Rebecca told us, and I'm going to get to the point in just a second. Rebecca tells us that in addition to all the things that's happening, she couldn't pay rent. Right. And she had gone to her landlord because the federal government gave to all the federal employees who were furloughed, gave them a letter that basically said, yeah, they still got a job, but they're not going to get paid. So be nice. Talk to them nice. Give them a break. Let them, settle down. Give them some extra time to pay. But your employer, your landlord doesn't have to agree to that. Your credit cards don't have to agree to that. Your mortgage company doesn't have to agree with that. It's just things are really bad because you just try to give them a break. And so a whole lot of corporations are saying, no, we're not going to give you a break. And fuck you to all those corporations who would not do that. As somebody who rents property to people who live in it, we have always, whenever our tenants have reached difficult times, we have lowered their rent, because my thing is, you struggling, I don't need you out in the street because your struggle going to be terrible and it's going to be on my mind and I'm going to feel guilty. So we try to work, because that's what community does, right? And the nature of today's conversation is the community has to gather. And Rebecca is continuing to have this conversation. And then she tells us, because she went to her landlord and the landlord was like, oh, that's a damn shame. Sorry though, if your rent ain't paid, we are going to add them fees. You are going to be prosecuted. We are going to take you to court. We are going to do all of that. And so Rebecca then tells us that she was moving out. And I was like, oh, are you moving in with friends or family? She was like, no, I'm just moving out, which meant to all of us that she was moving from her home into homelessness. She was packing up her belongings to leave her house and go into homelessness. She didn't have a place to go. She just knew where she was at. She could not stay. And it was, I don't know what this woman looks like. I don't know. I think she was from Virginia. I don't know if I can recall correctly. And so I asked her, I was like, sis, what's your Cash App? Can you get, can we send you some coin? Right. And so she sells us her Cash App. While we're on the air, I sent her a little bit of coin. And then I start getting, the conversation moves on. We tell her we're praying for her. We wish her well. And I asked the Urban View audience, here's the key. I asked the Urban View audience, if you have it to spare, could you please consider, hooking the sister up with a little something on her Cash App? Almost within 5 minutes, I start getting notices. So we have a show chat in the Nubia. Shout out to all the Nubians who are here, which is a part of the narrative platform. Shout out to Karen Hunter, the amazing. And everybody, and then folks in the Nubia chat was like, hey, Larry, we can't, something happened to her. She gave you the wrong Cash App. Something's wrong. I tried to send her Cash App. I couldn't send it. Then I started getting notices on other social media platforms, because, we also went during the show, Jonah and Amina will post on other social media platforms. People started saying, she gave you the wrong Cash App. That's not the right Cash App, because I tried to send her money for Cash App and it was broke. It couldn't work. Oh, by the way, her Cash App is $ Rebecca Jennings 19, REBECCA JENNINGS, the number 1, the number 9. And so I was like, damn. Did I send the money to the wrong Rebecca Jennings 19? Shit, I ain't got a whole lot of money to be staring out, but I thought I was sending it to the right person. So I, on air, asked Rebecca, I was like, hey, sis, I think you gave us the wrong Cash App. Can you call back? Because I want to make sure people have the ability. People are trying to be generous. I want to make sure that, they have the right information and we ain't sending it to the wrong Rebecca. And frankly, if you were the wrong Rebecca and you got the Cash App, God bless you. Hope it blesses you and do with it what you will. She calls back. She makes it through and the lines, and I see, okay, my team tells me, okay, Rebecca's back on the line. So I pick up the phone and Rebecca's back on the line, and she says, no, that was the right Cash App. We broke her Cash App. There was such an outpouring of generosity from the Urban View audience that we broke her Cash App. She couldn't take no more Cash App. And I did not know that was a thing that could happen. I use Cash App occasionally. It's not a platform I stay on, but I use it occasionally. I didn't know that could happen. And we broke her Cash App. And so then she gave us her Venmo and her PayPal. And I don't have my notes in front of me. Otherwise, I would give those to you as well. Oh, but you know what I did do? If you go into in fact, I will do this for this live as well. In the live that was on that day, I included her Cash App link because people in the comments were like, I'm still trying to send her money. So I will find her information, her Venmo and PayPal, and I will paste it in the description of this video. So you guys can, if you choose to, if you have the capacity to bless her, to continue to bless her. So that had never happened before. I was in tears. I was in absolute tears. I think that was the day Amina had to play some promos because I was like, I am going to lose it. because it was these are things that these are acts of kindness, acts of generosity, acts of community building that are exactly what we are supposed to be doing in this time. And it was so precious to me because in our moments of gratitude, we have been talking about the community care, right? And for those of you who don't know what moments of gratitude is, my show is a 2-hour show every day. And it's hard to deal with because it's a lot of heavy news. It is all shot, no chaser. I'm not being nice about it. Like I'm giving you the shit straight up. Like this is what it is. Here are the sources. Go search it out, research it out. If you think I'm wrong, that's fine. But like, here's the information. Do with it what you will. Can't say you didn't know. And so that's hard to do, right? It's hard on the spirit. And I grew up listening to talk radio because my parents were very, very religious. And so we was always listening to like Trinity Broadcast Network or Christian Network or 700 Club or some sort of Christian talk radio, which is how I know the John Hagees, the Joe Smyers, the Jim and Tammy Faye Bakers. I know my word because I was steeped in this space for a very long time. And so I also know that because I love Democracy Now, I love heavy news, I love NPR. I know that it can also be heavy on the spirit. And so when the show first began in 2021, we started with a moment of gratitude, which was a segment at the very beginning of the show, which you guys on YouTube don't hear. By the time we get to the YouTube lives, we've already done this work. But the moments of gratitude are designed to help us navigate the heaviness of the channel, of the show, because I say my show is trying to embody the best in Black talk radio, where we are we're required to have difficult conversations that sit in the center of race, gender, culture, identity, politics, and the law. And we have those conversations every day because while they are difficult, they also help us learn how to be better people. And when we learn how to be better people, we can learn how to build better communities. And when we learn how to build better communities, we can shape a better world. I think I say that phrase every single day in the morning. And so the moments of gratitude are a segment where we like take just a few minutes, we breathe together, we have like a breathing exercise, and then I will read something, share something, play something that is inspiration. We talk about it, and then we conclude with another breathing exercise. Then we get into the news of the day. And for those of you who don't have SiriusXM, the reason that we have 2 episodes that release daily on the podcast is that the episode that releases in the morning at 6 a.m. is the moments of gratitude from the day before that we did live on the show. So you can get your spirit right. And I know you already got your own spiritual wellness, emotional care practices. So, this is just an extra if you'd like it. And then in the afternoon at around 2 to 3 o'clock, we hit you with the podcast for the news. So you got your joy in the morning. And then you got the serious work that you got to do in the middle of the day. Oh, yes. Thank you. And please hit like and subscribe and share. Thank you, Hood Mayor NYC. I appreciate that comment. That's a very nice thing for you to say. Mommy's on live. Please be quiet. I'm also a mom, and my kids are making noise. Love you. They're usually at school when I'm doing this, or I'm usually doing this in the studios. So back to the story. So we break in the moment of gratitude. The reason this was such an emotional moment for me, the fact that we broke her Cash App and we're about to break her Venmo and her PayPal, was that this month's moment of gratitude focused on 2 main areas. We were focusing on Indigenous wisdom because we had Indigenous Peoples Heritage Month, Heritage Day this month, and it's been focusing on distinguishing between self-care and community care. Wait a minute, do I have to move? Hold on, I'm seeing a little trouble in the chat. Hold on. Do I need to, because I don't have a moderator here. Do I need to moderate somebody? Let me just check. I just saw something that, let me know, friends, because hold on. We gonna be nice in the chat. We not doing anything disrespectful. Okay, let's not. Who are we talking to? Y'all, hold on. We're going to get back to the story. I just got to make sure. All right, I'm going to need y'all to stop whatever the debate is. We ain't got time for it. I don't want to have to put nobody on timeout. We ain't got time for it. This is a joyous in the morning moment. If you have a different perspective, that's fine. Please take it elsewhere. See, this is why I need to assign moderators for the weekend chats. I'm going to have to work on that. Y'all give me a chance. Justin, friend, I'm going to need you to relax. Okay, TMFJ, let's cool out. Let everybody cool. All right. Don't let me have to point a moderator real quick. Amsterdam, might need you to step on into the moderation chat because I got to get to the point of the conversation today. All right. So let's actually, let me put somebody on timeout real quick. I'm sorry, y'all. I usually have Amina here, Jonah here, and he cool. Okay. All right. We cool. All right. Okay. Everybody cool. Just got to make sure because it's a good moment. It's a good space. I'm telling a happy story here. Be nice. The reason this was such a big deal that we broke the Sisters Cash App was because this whole month we've been talking about community care and what it means for community to have to step up. And I know self-care is a very important thing. If you are taking care of yourself, but you are in the midst of a community that is struggling, that is abused, that ain't got its needs met, there's a limit to how healthy you can be as an individual when you're living in a community that is struggling, right? And so community care is very important. This, to me, was an outpouring example of community care. And so I want to be clear that we are going to be facing this week a lot of very difficult choices. There are so many of you who are dealing with unemployment right now, who are dealing with furlough right now, who are dealing with health insurance premiums that are about to skyrocket. We just had a meeting. My union had a meeting on Friday about the changes happening to our healthcare plan. I was like, Jiminy Christmas on a cracker. What the hell is going on? There is so much happening right now that is pointing our attention towards struggle and towards difficulty. And so I am asking that we really consider how we can show up for community in a different way. And this week is going to be the last week in the month of October, and November 1st starts on Monday. And shout out to those of you who I will be seeing at an event on, and I'm sorry, I'll start on Saturday. I will be seeing some of you at an event on Saturday. If you know, you know. Shout out to you. I'm looking forward to that engagement. But November 1st is also the first day that SNAP benefits are going to not be distributed. And we know this is happening because we got word that the House is not going to be meeting today, or this week rather. The government shutdown is going to continue throughout this week. Donald Trump is in another, he's going, he's traveling somewhere to be a terrible person at some other part of the world. The Republicans are completely checked out and they're like, we're fine. We don't care. They're going on vacations. Democrats have been coming into the office every day trying to have negotiations, but you cannot negotiate with yourself. So after this week, SNAP benefits end. And what that means is that the people who are already hungry and can't make their needs, can't fill their fridge without support from the government, are going to not only be hungry, but they're going to be extra hungry because they got a whole other month that they have to navigate without the benefits that they rely on. We have also received word that there is some indication that if you have leftover SNAP benefits, now this is not certain, if you have leftover SNAP benefits, you are going to have those benefits frozen. So I have seen reports of people who have benefits still left because they've been saving what they could because they thought they were going to be able to use that in the month of November when they weren't going to be able to getting additional benefits. And what ended up happening was we got notification that if you still have benefits left over, they will also be frozen. We're trying to get confirmation about that. The news reports are sort of all over the place, but this is going to create a massive amount of need, turmoil, and distress. We're also receiving word, and this is some of the stuff that I talked about over the week, that subsidies for daycares are perhaps not going to be making it out. Subsidies for Head Start are tied up, wrapped up, and tangled up in this. So saying all this to say, we are going to have to use a phrase that I have used before on the show. I can't remember where I got the phrase. I did not come up with this. We're going to have to bury ourselves in acts of service. We are going to have to bury ourselves in acts of service. We are going to have to do so much. And quite frankly, maybe this is going to allow, right? Because I don't want to deal with this shit. I'll be very honest with you. I have lived in shelters before because I have been homeless. I have used food stamps as a kid because that's what we had to do. I have stood in the food lines to get cheese and to get food for the house. So I know what that's like. I have, as a college student, I said this on airwaves, as a college student who Penn State lied to and told me I had a scholarship that I did not have after I flew from Germany, where I graduated high school, because my parents were in the military. The day after I graduated high school, I got on a plane by myself. This is before the internet. And well, actually, I guess it's not before the internet, before email, because I didn't get email. I didn't know what email was until I got to college. But this is like, I flew after high school to Pennsylvania so that I could do the summer testing and do all that stuff. Penn State told me I had a scholarship that they did not have for me. And so I found myself, as soon as I had moved in, after the summer had concluded, and I was working in Jamaica, Queens, because shout out to moved in with my grandma, and I was working at Cinnabon at Green Acres Mall, y'all, after I did 3 days of work at McDonald's on Parsons and Archer Avenue. I don't even know if that's still there anymore because they have destroyed Jamaica Avenue. But basically, when I moved to Penn State, I got an eviction notice like within my first 2 weeks of being there because I didn't have no money. And I was working 3 jobs. I was cleaning apartments and houses, and I was selling my plasma twice a week, sometimes 3 times if the people didn't know I had already been there and had met my allotment, because I was broke. I was poor. And as I told the audience this weekend, I remember I was a part of the United Soul Ensemble Gospel Choir. Yeah, shout out to Green Acres Mall. I was a part of the United Soul Ensemble Gospel Choir, where I was the chaplain for 3 years. So I know y'all have heard me talk a whole lot about Christianity over the past few weeks. And some of y'all think I be talking out of my nether regions. I know my Bible. I know my word. I was a junior Bible quiz champion multiple years in a row. So I just, relax. It's okay. But I remember coming to my dorm room after working 2 shifts in different dining halls to make some additional money. And my college friends who are part of the gospel choir with me had put 2 bags of groceries in front of my door because they knew I was hungry. They knew that I didn't have money. They knew that I was working I was working really, really hard and could not make ends meet. And they knew that I had been doing this for a very long time, and they had groceries in front of my door.
To this day, I don't know which one of them it was. Could have been Trisha, could have been Sonia, Valerie, Katrina, Trina, as we call her. Could have been Alan, could have been Charles, could have been any of the Johnson clan. It could have been any of them. Could have been, I don't know who it was, but I know that I ate that week and I needed it. And that was an example of the community gathering. And I just want to ask if you could. I know we are all struggling. I know we don't all have all the resources that we want. I would just ask that you would take stock of your neighbors this week. I would ask that you would consider the people in your block who you know they always kind of got a look of struggle. Like they may not ask nobody for nothing. They might have the pride that I had. I wouldn't go ask nobody for nothing. I would have rather starved than to ask somebody for something at that point in my life because I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed to be showing up at gospel choir practice and step practice with stains on my shirt from food that had splashed on me while I was clean. I was embarrassed, right? And I was embarrassed that people knew that I had to sell my plasma. I was embarrassed that I considered I considered bartending. I considered getting on the stage and making it clap. Like I considered in the name of Jesus, I was going to make it clap because I was broke. And I'm just asking that you consider your people today. I know a lot of us have people that perhaps we don't even talk to. We might have we have a whole lot of folks in our lives who maybe we're connected to, maybe we're not. If you see somebody in need, I'm going to ask that you tap into what I consider a very African-centered understanding of what community is and see if you can help. If you're going to get groceries and you know you got people in your community who are in need, can you buy a couple of extra items that you can perhaps give them if you are have a relationship with them, give them openly. If you don't, maybe just slip it on their door. If you are somebody who is in need, I am going to ask that you connect with whatever social workers or whatever counselors or whatever people in your community who are supposed to be there to help you. And I know it's an issue. I know it's a pride issue. For me, it was anyway. I know it's a challenge, but we have 1 week unless something happens, we have 1 week until the levels of hunger and the levels of need are going to reach moments and points that I don't think a whole lot of us are prepared for. And so this is where the community is going to have to gather. I'm going to read you all. Hold on. Let me check the chat, see how everybody's doing. Give me a second to gather myself, drink some water, clear my mouth. Okay. Yeah, love and action. Yeah, I was pushing, child. And if the fact that this was so long ago but it still brings me to this emotional state lets me know just how significant issues of poverty and trauma can impact people. So while we're having this conversation, I thought it would be appropriate because I don't have a whole lot of notes, don't have a whole lot of points that I wanted to make other than this. And this week we are going to really go in on the lives because we have so much that we have to highlight and focus. But I want to, if you would allow me, to read you all a story. This is a story that gives me a lot of hope and a lot of comfort, and it's a story that I did not write. Let me just say that. This is a story, frankly, I don't know who wrote this. This is one of those stories that is a folk tale, and it was written down by Michael Wynn, and it's called The Eagles Who Thought They Were Chickens. I typically will read this story like in the new year because I love this story, and I think it is so appropriate for the time that we're in, because I think the more we do to remember who we are, the more we do to figure out how we can better connect with each other, the better prepared we are going to be for this moment, and the better prepared we're going to be for the rebuild of what comes after. This is trouble don't last always, says the word. I don't know if that's in the Bible, but it certainly is in the gospel song. Trouble don't last always. And there's a lot of versions that trouble don't last always. This too shall pass, right? We gonna make it in the next day. We gonna be here to see the morning. All these sorts of concepts. And for me, one of the most important things that we can do as community is to remember the function of community, which is to support each other, to help us remember who we are so that we can walk in the greatness and the beauty of what we were sent here to do. I believe every single one of us has a purpose, has a mission, and the best we can do is walk that purpose out. And as I tell my audience every single day, think about how your purpose aligns with the needs of our people and then walk in it with your back straight. So I'm going to share this story with you. It's called The Eagles Who Thought They Were Chickens. It was written down by Michael Wynn. This is a folk tale. And so y'all know how we do. So here we go. Actually, let me drink some more water. This is I did not plan for all this. So y'all give me a second. All right, here we go. In the beginning, there was once a great king who ruled a vast kingdom. He was a wise and compassionate king who had earned the love, admiration, and respect of the people. Perched at the right hand of his throne was a great eagle,
Each day, the eagle would soar through the clouds. And as that great eagle flew throughout the kingdom, the people would look up into the sky with pride as this great eagle symbolized the greatness of the kingdom. It was a land rich in natural beauty and resources. The people were full of pride, possessing a rich culture and heritage. But one day, the slave ships came, and there was a great battle, and the kingdom was overthrown. The people were captured, and the great eagle was put into a cage and placed with people on board a slave ship. The great eagle, who had only known freedom, could not live in the cage and ultimately would die during the Middle Passage between Africa and the Americans. Upon the death of the eagle, a shipmate went to the captain of the slave ship and said, "Captain, the great eagle has died. However, she laid 3 eggs." The captain laughed. "Put them eggs in with the chickens." The captain knew that this great eagle was the last remaining symbol of rich cultural heritage of the people whom he had captured. Her eggs would be hatched and raised as chickens. They would become symbols of the captain's conquest. Later, in the chicken yard, after the slave ship completed the journey to America, the eagle eggs, together with the chickens, were taken to the plantation and placed in the chicken yard. A short time later, the eggs did indeed hatch. 2 boys and 1 girl eagle were born. The chickens laughed at those baby eagles. "Oh, what ugly chickens! Look at their big old heads and their short necks. Look how long and out of proportion their wings are." The baby eagles were objects of constant scorn and ridicule by the chickens. They were made to feel and believe that they were ugly and inferior. And not knowing the greatness of their culture and heritage, they walked through that chicken yard with their heads down, feeling, believing, knowing that they were indeed dumb, ugly chickens. Sometime later, another eagle is captured. The slave ship made another journey from America to Africa. Another kingdom was overthrown and another great eagle was captured. However, this eagle survived the Middle Passage. And when the slave ship returned to America, the wings of the great eagle were clipped and he was thrown into the chicken yard. But the spirit of that eagle was not broken, and he flapped his wings, desperately trying to fly. The chickens laughed at the frustrated efforts of the foolish, ugly chicken. The chickens laughed at the eagle, saying, "What are you trying to do, you dumb, ugly chicken? Chickens can't fly." But the eagle, who remembered who he was, responded, "I am not dumb, nor am I ugly, and I am certainly not no chicken." The eagle turned to the other eagles who thought they were chickens and said to them, "We are not chickens. We have come from a land rich in history and cultural heritage. We weren't born to be walking around like chickens. We were born to soar through the clouds. We are the symbols of a great and proud people." The big eagle then turned to the chickens and yelled at them, "Be quiet, you foolish chickens." The chickens were frightened by this bold and arrogant chicken. Who did he think he is? They ran to the roosters on the plantation and told them of the confusion that this big old ugly chicken was causing and of how boldly he had spoken to them. There were 3 roosters who reigned over the chicken yard. And when they heard of this arrogant chicken, they went over to him and demanded that he be quiet, stop his all boasting and causing so much commotion in the chicken yard. But the big eagle spoke boldly to the rooster, saying, "How dare you call me a chicken? I am an eagle." The roosters were shocked at the boldness of this big old ugly chicken and immediately attacked the eagle. With his wings clipped, the 3 roosters were just too much for him because he had been intentionally handicapped. The roosters pecked and they clawed at the eagle until he lay on the ground, beaten and defeated. The roosters and the chickens laughed at the beaten eagle, and one of the roosters turned to those other baby eagles and said, "You dumb, ugly chickens had better not cause any trouble or the same thing is going to happen to you." The eagles, who were afraid of those roosters, bowed their heads, turned, and walked away. The great eagle eventually dragged himself into a corner of the chicken yard where he laid, beaten and defeated. The chickens continued to scorn and ridicule the eagle, and he lay there day after day. Sometime later, in the chicken yard, one morning, as the chickens came out into the chicken yard, they noticed something was amiss. The great eagle was no longer lying in the corner, There was all sorts of commotion as the chickens and the eagles, who thought they were chickens, wondered what had happened to the big old ugly chicken. And when the roosters heard that the chicken whom they had beaten was no longer lying in the corner of the chicken yard, they began crowing, cock-a-doodle-doo. One of the roosters said, "Where's that ugly chicken? If he's out here causing trouble again, we'll have to teach him another lesson." At that moment, one of the chickens looked and said, "Oh," and they pointed to the top of the chicken yard fence and shouted, "There he is! I see that big old ugly chicken." There, perched atop of the fence, was the great eagle, whose wounds had healed, whose clipped wings had once again grown full, because the pain that had been inflicted upon him was temporary in nature, so long as he did not allow it to infect his mind. One of the chickens shouted, "You big old dumb ugly chicken, you better get down off of that fence. Chickens can't fly." One of the roosters shouted, "You dumb ugly chicken, we're really going to teach you a lesson this time. Come on, Vern, let's get them, Clem." One of the eagles, who thought they were chickens, shouted, "Hey, man, you better come down from there. You're going to get all of us in trouble." But the great eagle simply ignored the demands of the chickens and the threats of the rooster. And he turned to the eagle, who thought he was a chicken, and said to all three of them, "My brothers and my sister, we ain't no chickens. As I told you when I was first brought here, we are eagles, okay? We are the descendants of a strong and proud people. Ours is a history rich in its greatness and cultural heritage. I don't know what they were doing, but we were not born to walk as the chickens walk. We were born to soar into the clouds. Come with me, spread your wings and fly." And I imagine he said, "Damn it," but that's not in the text, so I'm just going to editorialize that. The great eagle spoke with power and authority. The boldness and conviction of his words touched the spirit of one of the eagles, who lifted his heads and tried to actually begin spreading his wings. And as he flapped his wings, he lifted a few feet from the ground, but he became frightened because this was a new experience. He had never flown before, though this power and this potential had been something he had always carried with him. He had never experienced what it was to walk in his own purpose. And he fell back to the ground, and the roosters and the chickens laughed at how foolish this arrogant and great eagle was to tell these ugly chickens that they can fly, because everybody knows, damn it, chickens can't fly. But the great eagle spoke again. He tuned out the noise of the haters, and he spoke again to his people. He said, "Trust me, my brothers. Come with me, my sister. You can do it. You have the power to soar into the crowds." And with this encouragement, the eagle flapped his wings again, and he soared above the chicken yard. And the chickens and the roosters were speechless, and with wonder and surprise and shock and awe, they could only watch as this great bird, who had only known shame and ridicule throughout his entire life, this eagle who had thought he was a chicken, who had believed that he was dumb and ugly, now soared high above the chicken yard with pride and newfound dignity. And his wings were so beautiful, and they were so strong. The young female eagle, who had thought she was a chicken, I says she ain't need no more encouragement after that. Our baby girl, she just starts running, and like an airplane going down a runway, she's flapping her wings. She's soaring into the sky, full of pride, full of grace, no longer believing and trapped by a mentality that told her she was a dumb, ugly chicken. She realized her brilliance and her beauty. The great eagle turned to that last remaining eagle, who thought he was a chicken, and said, "Brother, come on. Just spread your wings, fly." But that last eagle lowered his head and said, "I can't. I'm a chicken, man. Chickens can't fly." And the great eagle knew that his brother had lived with ridicule for too long. His spirit had been broken, and his self-esteem had been crushed. His self-image had been destroyed, and never knowing the richness of his culture, being separated from the brilliance of his people and the land from which he had come, he did not believe that such a place even existed. He did not believe that he had the power to fly. The great eagle spread his massive wings, and like an eclipse, his shadow covered the entirety of that chicken yard. And he said to the remaining eagle, who was steadfast in his belief that he was a chicken, "I will pray for you, my brother. One day, you're going to come to understand the richness of your cultural heritage. One day, you too will join us, because our destiny is in the skies." And with that, the great eagle flapped his wings and soared with beauty and majesty into the sky, where he joined the other two eagles who were waiting for him and said, "Come, my brother. Come, my sister. We must journey throughout this entire land. There are way too many eagles who are living as chickens. Their wings have been clipped. Their spirits have been broken." And since that day, Eagles have been soaring throughout the world, helping others to believe in their beauty, their brilliance, their potential, and the extraordinary possibilities in their own lives. My friends, that story, written down by Michael Wynn, called The Eagles Who Thought They Were Chickens, is so emblematic of where we are today. The eagle, the great eagle who made it through that middle passage and whose wings had been clipped, that is so representative of the pain we have been abused with. It is so reminiscent of everything we have suffered through, everything we have struggled. But that eagle was able to remember what it means to pour into somebody else. And as that eagle was able to heal from its own injuries, using the power of the connection that it had with our history, with our culture, with our heritage, was able to then take, even from a space where I'm sure the eagle was brokenhearted. I'm sure the eagle felt downtrodden and felt like the community that it had represented had been devastated. And yes, that was true. But that eagle remembered the power of community. That eagle could have left. That eagle didn't have to encourage them other eagles who thought they were chickens to come on, but the eagle understood the power of community. The eagle was able to nurture itself back to health and then took that power and poured into the others who needed it. And I'm asking for those of us this week, as we consider the grave danger that so many of our communities are in. And we know that but we'll talk this week about why people would want to create this sort of poverty, why people would think that this sort of policy is good. We'll do that later on this week. But for right now, for those of you who are the great eagle, who remember who we are, who have, yes, gone through what you have gone through, but you have been able to heal in some ways. And perhaps you and I, we are all still on our healing journey. To the extent that we have a measure of health, an ability of self-love and appreciation, we got to pour into the rest of our folks. To those of us who are represented by those eagles who did not yet know that there are other options, we do not have to walk around with these nasty, old, ugly, unwashed and unseasoned chickens. I need you to see yourself in this story and realize that you have power. And that when we collectively gather our power together, there is nothing that these diabolical beings who walk the planet can do to stop us. And for those of us who find more resonance with that eagle, who did not believe that he could do better, who did not believe that he had a purpose, I want so much for you to connect with our history, to connect with people who are able to pour into you, who can encourage you, who can inspire you, because quite frankly, every single one of us are represented in this story. And to those of you who would be the chickens, just know that there is a fate for chickens in this story. It's not shared here, but the fate for chickens in a plantation like this is the frying pan. And if this is a plantation where my ancestors were forced to work, you're going to be very well seasoned by the time you have been prepared for someone else's tasty dish. Keep being chickens if you want to. We as eagles have no time to play around with the foolishness that you would engage in. And so, community, it is so important that we take time to think about what acts of service we can engage in. What mutual aid can we contribute to? What support can we provide for people who are going to be desperate, who are feeling desperate? For those of us who have access to resources, I would hope that, I would ask that you would please use the chat, not necessarily the live chat, but for those of you who can't, and if you can in the live chat, that's fine because people will be able to see that too. If you know of resources in your community, just say the name of your community and the resource, put the link, put whatever it is that you can so that people who are in your area might be able to see it, might find it, might be able to share it. This is time for us to put pride aside. And this is time for us to dive into acts of service that are going to allow the community to gather. Because when the community gathers, when we have a spirit of Ubuntu, I am because we are because there is a reciprocal nature there. I ask that we tap into that we pour into that, because this is going to be an opportunity for the best of us. The best of the energies that we have, if we can connect with our ancestors, this is going to be an opportunity for us to show up for each other, the likes of which perhaps we have not seen, certainly not in my lifetime. And I'm praying that we have the capacity and the love to commit to doing that. You all remember that phrase from Asada that people always like to talk about. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love and support each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains. I want us to remember that. It is our duty to fight for our people. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. And we can. We must love and support and respect and uphold and nurture each other because we have nothing to lose but our chains. And quite frankly, I'd rather soar with the eagles than hang out with some crusty, musty, dusty, unleg washing, non-washcloth using, non-knowing what soap was until we introduced it type chickens in the first place. All right, let's check the chat. I'm going to get ready to go. I got to get my daughter to dance class. We got a lot we got to get into because it's the weekend. I'm not going to hold y'all. Thank you all for showing up. I know this was spontaneous, random. I didn't even know if I was going to be able to do it, but I'm just grateful that you all showed up and held space. Please like and subscribe. Please check out the podcast. Laree breaks it down every day at 6 a.m. for your moment of gratitude and around between 2 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon for your news for the day. We got a lot to figure out. But I'm just very comforted that we are going to be able to figure this out together. And quite frankly, there is nowhere I would rather be than in community with our folks. And I was going to say we'll be right back after this, but I'm not on live today. I mean, I'm not on the show today. I got to go. Mommy's coming. Give me a second. I'm coming. And I got to go. Love y'all. Peace.